Is it? I have a question. I was thinking about this earlier. Are we now getting an influx of films that were filmed COVID and post-COVID? So two things.
Um,
COVID, it was difficult to make films, and post-COVID, people were depressed and didn't want to make films. Or is it because cinema is going down the fucking drain?
a mix of
Vote
both, I
now!
suppose. I think this year, I think the effects of AI have really started to be felt. I think just in terms of the visual look of films and how many corners are being cut in terms of film production. And I
I really
think,
enjoyed the Coke advert this year.
yeah, isn't it wonderful how they're all not
Mm.
real people?
Mm.
But yeah, I think there's just a lot of shit and there's not a lot of good. Anyone see Red One? That was great. Loved
No,
every second.
no.
It
But I
was
mean, the trailer
a
looks.
mess.
The trailer
Yeah.
pretty much gives everything you want to find out about that film anyway. So.
Yeah, there's nothing you're gonna get out of it that you wouldn't get from the trailer. But I think there's been so many films like that, like Deadpool and Wolverine, and as we've discussed on the last podcast, Argyle. I just think all these films keep coming out, and it's all dominating everything, and then you get like a banger that comes out every now and then. Like, I think the year peaked with Dune 2 and Furiosa really, and then after that it's just been downhill.
You said every now and then, and speaking of now and then, Argyle is one that we are hoping that we can watch as a group. But one member, who will remain nameless, but his name rhymes with Brian, refuses to watch Argyle. And I would like a live explanation why.
This is clearly just shit. Not in a fun way.
I haven't seen it, so I can't comment.
Like, no, neither have I. But I mean, what Eddie said, it's just, you know.
You've got to see it. It's got. I think there's more than just the twist. Is all I'll say, and it's worth watching.
But like, is that worth watching over Demon Cop?
You make a good point. Probably not. Demon Cop does sound good.
I want to watch it for the twist. It just sounds hilarious.
Or the twist.
Yeah,
Do they
it sounds.
do they make it like so blatantly obvious, like when it happens, or is it like subtle?
Oh, what, like when they actually reveal it?
Yeah.
Nah, they flash it up on screen like it says like, "Oh, Kyle." It's like, whoa.
Oh, okay.
So like you instantly know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing subtle about it.
Mhm.
There's just this one specific ice skating scene that everyone needs to see without spoiling. But yeah, it needs to be seen to be believed. It's a Matthew Vaughn classic.
You think he's one of the upper echelon filmmakers of today?
I think he's up his own arse.
Oh, right, okay.
So he's
Is his arse named Echelon?
Yes.
He's up his echelon.
Yeah, he's echelon arse.
Mm. Would you call him pretentious?
No, because I don't think he cares enough to be pretentious. I think he's too focused on making things epic and sick and cool, and he does it in a very lazy way. So it's not even epic or sick or cool anyway.
You think trying to make things epic, sick, and cool is what's contributing to the death of cinema that we are literally watching every single day before our eyes?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what Deadpool and Wolverine is as well. It's just Ryan Reynolds being like, "Hey guys, you like this? Isn't this cool?" And it's not. It's shit.
The coolness and the attempt to be cool, of like, like to point things out, or as like being become a staple in blockbuster filmmaking. And I think,
Mm.
like, obviously with the domination of Disney, like you've seen it throughout Star Wars, you've seen it throughout Marvel, and I think that's when like blockbusters that we get with Dune like stand out even more so, because they're actually crafted in a way that's not just giving like schlock to the audience of just a thing to point out and to be like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because
They
I
are
think
cool, though.
like Dune 2 is a cool movie.
Yeah.
Like it's got things that like on paper are cool anyway. Like big ass fucking sandworms and everything. Like naturally that's cool, but it's how Villeneuve films it and makes it feel incredible in scale that makes it cool. But Channing Tatum turning up as Gambit and doing a weird accent isn't cool. It's just like it's
I
shit.
disagree. I was wowed. I haven't seen it, but I was wowed.
You were wild.
I kind of do want to watch Deadpool and Wolverine just to see how bad it is. In fact, me and Dylan were talking the other day about like kind of sort of heading towards bad films, and I don't know. There's something about a bad film.
Yeah, I love
Like for
a bad film.
example, I kind of like toxically want to watch Argyle.
Yeah,
I toxically kind of want to watch Red One, and I toxically kind of want to watch Deadpool and Wolverine. But the thing is, I mean, it speaks volumes when the only thing a film today has going for it is how bad it is.
well, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's so bad that is somehow a draw for me.
I don't know why I find them so hard to resist. I just find them so funny. Like Red One is like, in a way, my dream come true, but it's the worst thing ever made. But I don't know why.
Do you think the experience would have been better if it was like in like I don't know the IMAX or
Yeah, if they
maybe
had
in
that
Christopher Nolan's
technology.
personal theater or anything?
Yeah, if they had that technology like they had for Oppenheimer, I think Red One would look really good on that.
Mm.
A wise man once said.
That's my thoughts exactly.
Yeah. I think Dwayne Johnson should be in every film.
Do you think the sequel's going to be called Blue One?
No,
Or Blue 2?
I think Red 2.
Red 2 already exists.
Red 2 already.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Bruce Willis.
Do you think though that 2024 is just a lull year, or like you said, do you think this is like the first of like post-COVID films that have either been like micromanaged too much, or input of AI, or just just the way the industry has gone through the shitter post-COVID, or do you think it's actually just a lull year?
No, I think it's the way the industry is going post-COVID, and I think a post-COVID world is going to be driven by AI. If you think this is bad, wait maybe 2 or 3 years when all the releases of that kind of films that will be made by AI come out.
Yeah.
You think this is bad? We'll look back and think, oh, do you remember the times of Red One? Do you remember Argyle? That was cinema. It's just gonna get worse.
I think it's probably like a mix of both. I think a strong part of it is the fact that it probably will end up being just a lull year, because I think like independent cinema will always be its own kind of bubble compared to what's going on in blockbuster cinema. But I just think this year there just hasn't been that many standout independent films. Like there's been a few, but nothing on the same scale that there's been in the last few years. And I'm not sure why that is, but like it's not usually that some of the blockbusters are the best films of the year.
Yeah.
But in the case of this year, two blockbusters are the best films of the year in Dune 2 and Furiosa. And then there's been a few other standouts, but nothing really that memorable. And so I think it's just a weird year where there's so much shit and very few standouts. But I think it is combined with the fact that there's that post-COVID AI kind of thing happening that is making. I think it's making worse films worse, but I don't think there's been enough good films to counteract that and kind of balance it out as a good year.
Yeah, well, it's like, the last time we did the podcast, we did the top like tens of 2023,
Yeah.
and obviously we were still seeing some at the time, because obviously we get them late, don't we? So perhaps there might be a few late ones for 2024 that we end up seeing that turn out to be good, but like I could have named like 15 to 20 that I loved.
Yeah.
And this year so far, there's probably like 5 that I love in comparison.
Yeah, I was looking through my letterbox ranking for the year like the other day, and I think I've literally got 10 films which I've rated 4 stars or more, and about 6 of those are just 4 stars. So most of them I've not even loved. They've just been like great, but nothing that's particularly memorable. And so it's because like last year there were so many. Like even at this point in the year, there was like literally like you say 15 to 20 like ones that I would at least say I loved. But this year there's been just barely anything even springs to mind.
I would contribute something, but I haven't seen anything this year.
And what
And
have you
it's
actually seen? What have you actually seen though?
Yeah.
Edward and I watched Dune together, and we also watched Furiosa together.
Yep.
So he is literally being bore witness to half of the films I've seen that have been released this year. So like there's so many I want to see. I know I've heard Ferrari was good. That was a this year release, wasn't it?
That was last.
That was last year.
Never mind. I fucking know any films that came out this year. What Gladiator 2 I've heard some mixed things from, but I've heard it's
Yeah.
a film.
I didn't like it.
No,
Oh.
I found it so. It's fine. Like.
Yeah. It was literally the biggest find.
Is it because it was woke?
Yeah, it was too
It
woke
was-
for me.
It was utter
Too-
woke
too
nonsense.
woke.
It was.
Have you seen that video
Yeah.
essay that's gone viral? That has obviously tapped into these like the right wing crowd. Where it literally says
Oh.
that Gladiator 2 is like woke for taking away its masculinity or something.
I
It's like-
saw.
it's
Yeah,
like,
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you get more masculine than a gladiator?
Oh,
What are you
yeah.
talking about?
It's bizarre. I saw the thumbnail going around on Twitter. It's just a
Yeah.
picture of Pascal and it says "men bad" or something
Yeah.
like that.
It's like
Like-
there's a woman character
Christ.
literally cut out of the film. How is this film
Yeah.
woke?
Ridley Scott's literally the most like dad filmmaker there is. Like, how can you even say that? Yeah, bizarre.
Yeah, I was tempted to not see it because she was cut out. It would feel like a disservice somehow. Like, why would I want to see someone? Why would I want to see a film when someone is being like delivered a great injustice? Like, what was the point
Yeah.
of cutting her out? Did it make the film better?
No.
Did it really make
No.
the film better?
It didn't at all.
And will we ever find out? Will there be a fucking the masculinity cut where she's
Well,
put back in?
Apparently, there is existence of a 4-hour cut that might potentially
Yeah.
get released. Now,
What was it with Ridley Scott and 4-hour cuts potentially getting released?
the thing is like after seeing it, and obviously you've seen the Napoleon director's cut, but like there was elements that felt exactly the same as Napoleon, where things just
Yeah.
it's been ripped to shreds in the edit again.
Yeah.
Like I don't know whether that is actually like it just seems. It seems weird that that's happened 2 in a row, and it seems more of a Ridley thing rather than the studio.
Yeah.
Why would that be happening again?
Yeah, because surely they wouldn't do that for Gladiator 2, which they know is gonna do well anyway. It doesn't seem like a studio would interfere with that. Like, it doesn't seem like they tell Ridley what to cut and how
Yeah.
best to tell it when he's making a sequel which people are excited for to a film that won, Best Picture and people already love. So of course, the studio would let him do what he wants. But the film does feel very weird because I think obviously like that female character was cut out, but like
Yeah.
that's a big problem because Paul Mescal's character is so boring in the film, and so they've cut out this whole character which is clearly a key part of that character's story.
Yeah.
And so then it's just that the whole film feels like it's cutting around these characters without giving them anything to make them interesting at all, and the whole thing is such a, I don't know, it's just such a fine film, but there's nothing particularly
Yeah.
that's
'Cause it's
driving
like,
it forward.
Even to me, like the action, a lot of it was impressive in terms of its like staging and its framing.
Yeah.
But it still felt like really artificial and like too glossy and too clean, and it was just
Yeah,
it had that like artificial look that a lot of post like 2010 blockbusters have had. Where, like,
yeah,
the compositing or like the CGI sheen that's put over stuff.
yeah,
It's like whereas you look back like we mentioned on the last one, like the three, the like Pirates of the Caribbean, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, like the CGI used with the practicality always looks like incredible, and then
yeah,
like that post 2010s where everything just looks like sludge and like
yeah.
either looks like sludge or like too like sharp, too like glossy, and yeah, I think Gladiator 2 is the same.
Yeah, I think because like the only thing I particularly liked about the action scenes in this one, like compared to the first one, was that it doesn't use those weird slow mo shots that the first one has in abundance. So like at least I can tell what's going on
Yeah.
in this one. But like you say, it still looks so. The film looks so polished and so, like you say, that kind of sheen that it's got over it. It looks really weird, and like I think with the first one, you kind of feel the dirt and the sand and the grit of that film, but with this one, it just feels it feels like they're in a studio at the end of the day or on a set. Like nothing
Yeah.
particularly feels
Well, yeah,
like
that's
yeah.
what's funny is like we mentioned just now that the effects of COVID, that was one that was postponed for quite a while, wasn't it? And then I
Mhm.
think someone had COVID. Was it, or was it shot in the middle of COVID?
Oh, I'm not sure.
There was a break it had on filming, and then they obviously had to go back and finish like the rest of the film.
Oh,
So
okay.
I wonder if that played any part in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So
Even
with
then, if it played a huge part, reshoots are a massive part of
Yeah,
production and
well,
post
yeah.
production, and any competent director, I think, would be able to not necessarily fix things, but certainly make things look right with reshoots. And I don't mean to throw a director I love under the bus, but Ridley Scott has consistently showed a lack of tentative care,
Mm,
especially with his most recent films. Like everything since like House of Gucci, especially, has been
yeah.
unpolished with its theatrical releases. You could even stretch back before that, but like throughout the 2010s, I'm looking at Ridley Scott's career. I'm thinking he's more of a producer than he is a director now.
Yeah. I think like the only real interesting Ridley Scott things of recent memory are his Alien prequels. I think like I've not seen everything he's made in the last 10-15 years, but I just think he's on a bit of a mid streak, I'd say. I think Napoleon I somewhat enjoyed, but it was so obvious that it was missing vital scenes that I couldn't
yeah,
enjoy it enough. It took me until
And
about
it shouldn't need a director's cut
yeah, it didn't need
to
it.
like we shouldn't have to be. So when you were talking about Gladiator, I've not seen it, but my instinct is like I'm going to wait for the director's cut. Why is that an
Yeah.
instinct? Why should that ever be an option to wait for the theatrical cut? Should be the director's cut. I think Robert Eggers said it about the Northman,
Mm,
because like he was asked about a director's cut and he said the theatrical cut is the director's cut,
yeah,
yeah.
and I was fascinated by that because it's a sometimes it's very easy to blame a studio. It's very easy to blame like producers and such. But sometimes I think the director should take responsibility for how the theatrical cut comes out.
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
this is totally off topic, and feel free to cut it if you like. But for example, Andrew Dominic, a filmmaker I absolutely loved until he brought out that right wing fucking fascist piece called Marilyn, where he fucking Blonde, where he shits all over the grave of Marilyn Monroe for his fucking right wing agenda, which is horrendous, really, when you think about somebody who's been very left wing in the past and has made films that I've absolutely loved. But the point I'm trying to make is Assassination of Jesse James has been talked about as a 4-hour cut, yada yada, and there's been a lot cut from it and such. He in interviews has said he's happy with the way it came out. So regardless if there is a 4-hour cut with Ridley Scott's films, this shouldn't feel such disjointed bizarreness to these theatrical releases, which seems to be why is it becoming consistent?
Yeah. It's
Even if it is for like attention spans or for modern audiences or however you want to spin it, modern audiences and attention spans don't equate to something any of us can see as a disjointed farce.
I did love the last duel. I know Rid did as well.
I loved it. Yeah,
oh, I
I
didn't
loved
see
it.
the last duel, but
Yeah,
I
Brilliant.
did see that. Yeah.
Brilliant.
but
That's why I didn't mention it. That's why I said House of Gucci onwards.
yeah, but I think that's just Ridley through a lot of his career, really, isn't it? It was like I've not seen it, but like there was a load of it. One of the counselor, which I think wasn't very good or received very well.
Hmm.
Is it Body of Lies? Did he direct that?
Oh, that was fucking shit. It was
Oh, I
shit.
don't
It was
know.
the thing is, it was boring as fuck.
Yeah.
It was
And then
boring as shit. Nothing happens in the whole fucking film.
obviously he
It's
had
basically, I think even Ridley Scott has talked about that film where it was a post 9/11 film where every single terrorist is the worst like possible thing to ever exist on planet Earth. And every people, actually, all the peoples who live in Middle Eastern countries are now America's fucking enemy. So you get all these post 9/11 films come out, and they're all fucking shit.
Yeah, because he had The Martian as well, which obviously was commercially and not
Mm.
critically. But yeah, like interesting wise, like the Alien prequels are some of like his most interesting work, and it's interesting because I know he said the other day, which was it? He said he went too far with Prometheus, or
Yeah.
he made.
I didn't think he cooked
I
hard
didn't see
enough.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he said a statement something to do with about Prometheus the other day.
Yeah.
Producer, get to work. Snap, snap.
Oh god.
Let's see if I can find it.
Nah, don't you find it, Ryan. Let the guy whose job it is find it. Let him do something for a fucking change. Speaking
It
of,
says
how was your day at work?
Prometheus was a failure. No, it was alright, thanks.
What was that?
Prometheus was a failure, really.
Um,
Does he mean commercially, or does he mean to his own vision?
he said we were asleep at the wheel. My advisors, who frankly no
Yeah.
longer are with me, were asleep at the wheel, certainly, and I partly blame myself, except I was busy making other films. And so it was let go, and it shouldn't have been. When you resurrect, you better put your nail into the wall.
See, that's such a bizarre comment because
Yeah.
it feels anti of what the film is even saying and what the film
Yeah.
is doing.
Yeah, because the whole film is a meditation on kind of human existence and hope. And it feels like saying instead, oh yeah, we should have gone all out. It's like, well, why? Why would that suit that film and those ideas at all?
That sounds like a commercialized response in terms of
Yeah.
sometimes if people say things enough, you start to believe them.
Yeah.
That
And also
sounds
it's-
like what outside noise has got to him, because when you watch
Yeah.
Prometheus, that feels like a Ridley Scott film.
Yeah. And is Covenant kind of not that in a way as well? Because Covenant's very much a response to Prometheus in the opposite kind of viewpoint of, you know, people and humanity. And that is very violent, very aggressive. It's very, you know, it's very raw in its kind of in its brutality. And so is that not what Ridley's talking about there? So didn't he kind of do that with
Yeah.
Covenant anyway? Like I don't know, but I feel like that is a weird comment. But I hope he does get to complete that trilogy, just because I think it's I don't think everything about those two films works, but I think the ideas throughout them make the wider Alien franchise much more interesting, and I would like to see a fully realized kind of 3-film set of ideas.
Yeah, that is a thing where like for me like the flaws in both films don't affect me in the slightest because the
Yeah.
film is attempting to be something different, something bold, and
Yeah.
it just, like the many themes that it's trying to put through, whether they work or not, it's still expressive enough and interesting enough to be worthy of acclaim.
Yeah.
I'd rather much see that than, sadly the other Alien sequel that we had this year.
Yeah, well, exactly, because I was going to say, like, that film is literally just, what, a borderline remake of Alien 1, and it's just a bunch of fan service, and like, hey, you like this, but at least the direction's cool, and like, yeah, the direction's cool, but the film has nothing beneath it. It's literally just surface level, just boring Alien ripoff, whereas at least Ridley Scott's sequels are, like you say, kind of very bold and doing something much more interesting than I think that series has ever gone before.
Yeah.
I was thinking that when you have films like Prometheus and Covenant, I don't think they're the greatest films in history, but I would watch them. I actually I'm looking forward to rewatching them. I think we've even talked about rewatching them. Because they're doing something. They're actually trying to say something with what they're doing. Whereas a film like Romulus, I'm never ever going to watch again, because I remember thinking the introduction sort of call back to like when Ian Holmes' character's fucking body is like crushed up on the floor, and you know exactly who it is as an Alien fan. A single shot of that, I think, would have been fine. And I actually think the way they did it, just that crushed up bit, that could have been fine. But then they made this whole disgusting, foul character.
Yeah.
I think they still I still harbored some hope when they had brought it back up and it was in the shadows. And I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe. And then it started fucking talking. They put full lights on it, and it was the ugliest fucking. It looked like the fucking Coca-Cola AI advert. It was for 2 hours. Why is it a main? Why is a dead guy a main character?
It's just so catered on fan nostalgia, that, because it's like,
Yeah.
what purpose does that have as him being that robot? It could have
Yeah.
literally been any other robot, but it just had to be
Literally.
because we're like, oh, nice callback, and then
Yeah.
necromancy. It was just
Yeah, exactly. Literally, I think I said it where it's like the necromancy to revive the fucking the spirit of the soul of fucking Ian Holm. That is the most disgusting. I didn't think it could get more like disrespectful than like the fucking the shit that other films that were only nameless have pulled, but with cameos for a whole character. And the thing is, because the film was so well received, this will become the norm.
yeah.
We're just gonna start putting fucking dead fuckers as like starring roles. Like this is the most dreadful travesty I've ever seen. Like you got to think about not only on the industry, the families, the respect that this is gonna actually have, on the industry. This is also going to have an effect on younger actors because they won't be able to get roles because dead people are still fucking occupying them.
Yeah.
Like, are we still going to see Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man in 50 years fucking time? I fucking hope not, but it's probably going to happen.
Well, you say like we were seeing the dead guy. It's like I'm sure Peter Cushing, obviously he had that stuff in Rogue One, but I'm sure that he's being revived in a documentary about himself.
Is he? I haven't heard about that.
Yes, I'm sure of it.
This is how I died. It was very painful.
Which is, like, if you think, like, obviously Romulus is potentially the start, and obviously the introduction of AI being slowly, gradually trickled in. Because what was that film? That horror? The used AI? I can't think of the film.
Alien Romulus.
Late Night with the Devil.
Late Night with the Devil. And like, I know what they were like. I remember seeing like on social media, we're like, oh well, it's not a big deal and all this, but it's like, no, that's the start.
Yeah.
Once people start using AI for even the most like insignificant thing, then it's just over.
Exactly.
That was a film I was looking forward to watching, but as soon as I heard the AI stuff, it put me off watching it.
Yeah, instantly put me off. And the thing is as well, because like, sure, it's only a small part of the film on a visual, like in a visual sense, but like making your art and your background art and your set decks, all of that in AI, you're wiping out an entire part of crew on a production. Like there goes your artists and your set designers, prop designers, etc. Like the more that people find those kinds of shortcuts, the more that less and less departments are just going to get replaced, and it's depressing.
But that's the thing, is like that's even from a job point of view, where like you're losing crew members to do their passions, but it's even in a sense of just a creator.
Yeah.
You're making art. You're talking about ideologic, like, expression. Why would you want just a random computer to just do something for you? It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah,
It just goes to show that the mindset of people in the business is just purely business and not creativity and art. It's just sad.
Yeah. I was speaking with Olivia about this the other day when I was over there, and I was saying to her that, like, because we were saying the exact same thing, sort of thing, and I said to her, what I found AI useful for is exactly the reason why I believe it was created, to help organize things. I think because I have ADHD, I like to write my notes, so I just vomit them out. I don't put them into specific orders. But if I go and ask ChatGPT to organize it into separate sections, it does it. Great.
Yeah.
But instead, it's used for everything else instead of the reasons that I think, maybe this is too optimistic of me, that I think it was invented for. But, like, why have we created, and I do say we as, like, humanity, why have we created something to live life for us? Why don't we just live it ourselves and start creating art ourselves and then hoping something else does for us and we can take the credit? I cannot find or fathom a reason as to why people would rather see something uninspired. And I use that word specifically because it can use other source material as a reference for what to go on, but it is not inspired by those pieces. If I listen to Requiem by Mozart, I'm immediately going to be inspired by that music and whatever feelings that gives me. A machine, an AI, cannot get anything from that. It cannot get inspired by anything. It uses source material of what's being well received. If something is good that we love, but it hasn't been well received, it wouldn't use that as the source material.
Yeah.
There's nothing an AI can do that is remotely creative because it is simply just using work that already exists. And this is what people want, apparently. It's sort of like, I don't like to use the word exploded because I feel like boomers use that, but AI usage has exploded in creative industries. And I think it's because I think it's workload related, where people would rather not do the jobs that they've been hired to do, and they're overworked and underpaid. I get it. And when it's reasons like that, those are very, very convincing reasons to use AI, and it's very hard to fight against something when that's happening because it's the human condition to not want to have to do those things for being underpaid. It's something we can all relate to, which I think is why it's not universally bashed or gotten rid of or immediately be turned away. It makes me think of people who were day one seeing Terminator in the 90s. What would they be thinking about today? What would James Cameron be thinking about it? Which is weird to say because, like, you actually get directors coming out today in support of these things, which is very strange.
Well, didn't Cameron say recently that he's in support of it? Was it him or was it someone else?
Cameron
I think
he joined something, like he's become the head of something to do with AI, but I hope that's more to like he's gonna like conserve and hold the operation. We're gonna push it in the right direction and not be abused for something fucking stupid, but
I hope so, but are we optimists?
I don't know.
Or has James Cameron sold his soul?
I'm just fully prepared within the next 5 to 10 years to see the full AI version film that goes like global.
Oh god. Yeah.
Because I think that's another problem is like you mentioned that people are being underpaid and like the workload's a problem and these companies just don't want to pay the people. But it's also a thing of like I think just the general audience doesn't see things or films the way that we do. Or the way that you should do.
We're so different.
No, but it's they don't see the way that they should do. They don't see They just see it as a product. And I think I think that's exactly why Disney and their like Marvel and Star Wars has gone that way because the reaction is always positive when it becomes just simply a product for people to be like, oh, there's an action figure, let's smash them together and let's see the coolness, and that's like that's just not ours, is it? It's just
it's something I've been thinking about where it's a case of when you think about it, it's inevitable where people will cave to the demands of the masses. But it makes me wonder how the hell actually this didn't happen 50 years ago because they did not give two fucks about what people wanted. It was director vision and stuff. Even when it was mass studio controlled back in the fucking 50s and whatnot. We're talking like French New Wave era when, directors were doing all sorts of different things to change things up. A lot of audiences hated this stuff. Hated it! Because it was so different and not what they were used to. But now we we go back and critics and stuff hated it at the time, and we go back and learn from these things at universities as like defining projects, defining moments, defining techniques. But that didn't stop them from happening. So how the hell? I do not know how this sort of catering to audiences didn't happen far, far sooner. Like, I'm surprised it's taken so long. But I guess my only guess is that it's because they simply were not making money at the level they are now, and it's come to a point where they're making so much money from slop that it's impossible to ignore it for greedy fucks, I guess. That's my theory.
Yeah, I think it's that, and then I think social media has probably had a part to play, just because the masses' voice is
Getting
way more
social media.
the masses' voice is way more expressed and in the open to these people who are running these corporations, because they get to actively see it and just and get fed the information rather than
Yeah.
word of mouth on the street. It's completely different.
Yeah, that's the thing as well, is because like when you don't have social media, um, a lot of the time you will have a director or some people on the project simply saying to the studios, "Why the hell do you care about these people and what they think?" And then they're just like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, you're right." And then you get social
Yeah.
media, and it's a case where they can actually just go on their phone after the director's left the office and go, "People hate this. Fuck me."
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's why you get like John Krasinski showing up as Mr. Fantastic and Doctor Strange too.
That was
Because
my favorite Marvel moment of all
yeah,
time.
top 5 Marvel moments.
Yeah,
But it's because like, and obviously recently Deadpool and Wolverine, you've got all these fucking cameos because you've just got fans demanding all this shit, and execs just go online, see what the fans want. They want that. Tick 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 tick. Here you go, and then they're happy and they make a bunch of money. And it's just it's lazy and shit.
Mm. And that's the thing is like, it is going to come to a point where a feature will be released with AI, like you were saying, Ryan, and it will be a checklist of things.
Yeah.
The AI will run the checklist, and if it
Yeah.
has all these things,
Yeah.
But then that's
uh,
also the worrying thing, is that there's probably going to be a huge, or at least a solidly big portion of people who actually think it's good, and then
Yeah.
as soon as that happens, that's over. It's just the end.
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's I can't think of any other word other than shame, but that doesn't feel monumental enough to describe the death of an art form, which
Yeah.
is what we're witnessing. I cannot believe we are alive to watch something we are specifically trained for die before our eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a case of if you go onto any kind of social media, people don't give, like in the larger audiences, people don't give a fuck for cinema as a whole. In fact, you'll get more people interacting and agreeing with people who. The go-to is why would I like some French detective film from the 80s that's black and white and pretentious?
Yeah.
It's just the go-to thing for these teenagers to say, and unfortunately, like that's who runs social media, including
Yeah.
the people who actually run social media because they behave like children. Um, but unfortunately, I think louder voices, especially when they're an unfortunate majority, are always going to win, despite whether it's good or bad.
Films that you have enjoyed this year, I know
Oh,
you mentioned Dune and Furiosa.
let me get my letterbox. What else? Honora.
Honora
Honora
was
was
good.
wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, it was
Yeah,
very good.
Honora was brilliant. That I think that's probably my standout. I think there are two standouts for me apart from Dune and Furious, which are Honora and I Saw the TV Glow, which are just both wonderful, wonderful films. I think Honora is. I need to rewatch the Florida Project, but for me, Honora is Sean Baker kind of at his most fully realized. I haven't
Yeah,
seen Red Rocket either. I need to see Red Rocket. But yeah, I think the way the film feels so effortless, but it's so entertaining. It's a big runtime, but it doesn't feel it. It's very funny, but funny to a point where by the end you're kind of questioning, was any of this actually funny, or is this just is it just
yeah.
a deeply, deeply heartbreaking and
Deadpool and
very
Wolverine.
tragic story? Yeah, just like Argyle. Actually, I got connection to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like that's what it was like with Honora. Was obviously it sets everything up, and then about like 50-60% into the film, it just becomes this like really hilarious buddy like road trip film, which is just
Yeah.
absolutely hilarious. And then
Yeah.
obviously like at its climax, it's just a fucking kick in the gut. Like it's just
Yeah.
horrendous. And
It
I
sounds great. I want to watch it.
oh no, it's
Yeah.
it's fucking great. Yeah, but
Yeah.
like
It's wonderful.
I think that's where I think it has a very good understanding of its tone and balance
Yeah.
to obviously shift from something that's so flat out hilarious for like a
Hmm.
good portion of the film to still hold the emotional weight for what it's striving for at the end. I think
Yeah.
is a testament to how well it's crafted, to be fair.
Yeah, because I think the film feels like almost three, like it feels very distinctively three separate kind
Yeah,
of parts. It starts off as this like kind of very glamorous, kind of glorified romance, which
yeah,
feels real and feels like you're literally watching these two people fall in love, and then it becomes, like you say, that kind of like road trip comedy for like a big chunk of it, and then it just becomes a kind of like tragic like drama piece. And it's,
yeah.
I think the way it handles that structure and goes between each one is so interesting and so well commanded.
You should watch it, Red.
Yeah, you should.
I want to watch it. Yeah. Is it a digital release or was it a cinema release?
It was
um
cinema. I watched it in the cinema, yeah.
yeah,
Brilliant.
I don't know, has that had a proper wide release yet?
I
I
think
don't know.
it is out on the anti-capitalist streaming services, I believe.
We enjoy partaking in the
Oh,
anti-capitalist streaming service.
we do, we do. Um, did any of you see
That,
Kneecap?
I haven't seen Kneecap, but it's on Amazon Prime now, so I'm going to watch
No,
that.
I haven't seen
I
Kneecap.
wish I went to the cinema to
Yeah,
watch that
We
one.
I nearly watched that the other day.
we both do need to see that. I mean, I went
Nice.
into that with absolutely nothing. Obviously, I knew that like they were a band.
Yeah.
I'd never listened to them, but yeah, it's fucking incredible, honestly. It's so like fresh. The camera, everything that's done with the camera is so feels so fresh, so inventive. It's just like flooded with so much kinetic energy, and it's just a blast. Like it's 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 hilarious, and I can't believe that all three of them, like obviously, are actually musicians and not actors,
Mm.
because all three of them are incredible. Like it's actually insane how all of them are just like first time
Are they playing
performers.
themselves?
They're playing themselves, yeah, yeah,
That's made me want to watch it that much more.
yeah.
Yeah, I really want to see it.
They're playing themselves, and then obviously the one's father is played by Fassbender, and it's like a supporting role that he like comes in for a few scenes, and like obviously they're standouts because I mean it's that guy can act.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
Yeah.
somebody I want to see in like more sort of independent works and such,
yeah,
because like a lot of the time I actually feel like great actors are fucking wasted in blockbuster circuits.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the
Bit
thing.
like Robert Downey Jr. What a fucking actor Robert Downey Jr. is, and he
Yeah,
wastes himself for the bag.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like Fassbender was one of the first. Like when I got into film, like at the time, that was kind of like the peak of his career because he was just having this
Mm.
run of like films
Mm.
where he was just consistently,
Yeah.
and then to hit like 2016ish, 2017ish,
But
when he
yeah.
just I don't know what
He
I
did
don't
the
know whether
snowman
yeah I
and
don't
then
know
he
whether it
gave
was
up.
his I don't know whether it was his agent or whether it was him,
Yeah.
but like his choices since then have been horrendous, and it's like
Yeah.
obviously like having not seen a lot of his films in a while because obviously I had watched them when I was getting into film like 2014 2015ish because at the time he was probably my favorite actor, and then like
Oh yeah.
watching Kneecap and I was like fucking hell, I forgot how good this guy is. Like
Yeah.
every time he's on screen you're just
Have you
glued.
seen Hunger?
I have seen Hunger, yeah.
His performance is
Yeah,
insane in that film. Have you, Edward? Have you seen
No, I haven't
Hunger?
seen Hunger. I need to.
Watch Hunger. His performance is insane. Insane.
we stand Liam Cunningham as well because that one scene he shares with him is pretty impressive. So yeah, Hunger's great.
I will need to see Hunger and I will need to see
Is there
Kneecap.
is there anything else?
Um,
No.
Challenges was a big
Oh yeah,
was
challenges.
memorable. Love
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
Challenges.
I noticed that's available. I think on Amazon Prime as well. So I was going to watch
Yeah.
that.
You I think you'd really like Challenges.
I
It's
think I'd probably
really
say
good.
challenges is still my number two.
Yeah, I think my top five would be Challenges, Honora, I Saw the TV Glow, Dune 2, Furiosa.
Because I remember I mentioned to Rid when we were doing I didn't love Furiosa.
I said, didn't I say that to you?
I didn't love it.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Like, it's very good. I just
What don't you love about it?
I don't really know. Like
I think it's
I think it's
perfect.
very good, but
Yeah.
I just didn't love it.
No,
I
think it's
prefer it to Fury Road.
yeah, me too. I think it's
I-
my favorite film of the year.
I-
I think it's
Look
maybe.
at him, he's gonna kill himself!
No,
He's
I'm trying to.
on camera, he's gonna fucking kill himself!
I think there's a case for best of the decade so far.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's. I just think as a character piece, as a study of trauma, as a study of connection and grief, I think it's one of the I just think one of the finest character studies ever, and I think just everything about it, I think is fucking miraculous. Like there are so many moments where George Miller just like shoots the fuck out of things, and it's like that is the best thing I've ever seen.
What did you think about the? Because it's very evident that there's a whole thing around technology there because of like the
Hmm.
look of the film.
Yeah.
Specifically, obviously Fury Road is very visual effects heavy, but it's still very like filmic. Like it's got that film
Yeah.
look, as whereas Furiosa's gone like full digitized. Like it. What
Hmm.
did you think
Yeah,
about that?
I noticed it in a couple of scenes where it almost looked like ugly. Especially with like some of the CG just clearly wasn't fully realized, but I totally forgave it. For reasons I can't explain. I remember circa 4 a.m. when we finished Fury Road, when I looked at you and said, "Yeah, I get it. This is amazing." And then the following morning, circa 11 o'clock, when we like finished Furiosa, um, in fact, before we watched it, you said, "I actually think you'll prefer Furiosa because it's your
Yeah.
type of film," and you were absolutely right because like it's pure character study stuff. I actually think it's what we were talking about earlier with like Prometheus and Covenant, where like I think you were saying, Ryan, that like the other stuff doesn't affect you in the slightest, and that's how I felt about some of the visuals in
Yeah.
Furiosa, because what Miller was doing so heavily with Furiosa was focusing on the titular character, and if you do that, conveying your themes in such a powerful way through this one character, oh Christ, yeah, well, it's one of my favorite films of the decade for sure.
Yeah. I think in terms of the visual look for me, I think it's very evident, and I think compared to Fury Road, it's a bit of a jarring switch. But
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I think the digital kind of look and that very jarring look of the film, I think almost complements it further, because I think not only is obviously the world, that universe is manic and it's insane, and you've got these outlandish kind of character designs anyway, and so I think a very heightened visual look kind of adds to that, and it adds to that feel. But also I think a lot of the film you're seeing through the eyes of an abandoned child, and I think that kind of extra crazed look of the world adds to that perspective of Furiosa, and how she's literally just taken from her home and flung into this like fucking batshit insane world that she doesn't want to be in, and she just wants to be back at home with family and those that she knows. But instead, she's in this roller coaster of a universe, and I think it adds to it. I think because it's obviously following on from Fury Road, which is one of the most technically impressive pieces of film ever.
Yeah.
I think that naturally there's a kind of comparison and a contrast there, but I think, kind of like Rid said, the fact that the character work is so rich and the story is so rich, I don't mind as much that it doesn't have the same kind of technical. I think because I think it still has technical excellence, but just in terms of that aspect that it's more digital than practical. I think that I can forgive it for, just because the rest of it is so perfect.
Did any of you see The Substance?
Yeah, I did. I like it, but I think it's one that soured on since. I think if I rewatched it, I'd be a bit more middle of the road. I think I was very surprised by The Substance, and I found it entertaining. But I think the the nature and scale of which it is entertaining, I think the more I think about it, is almost detrimental to what the film's actually saying. So I think it's a weird one. But I think stylistically and aesthetically, I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. No, I loved it. I did. But like now that you said like that could have been a 4 because I think the element of surprise in the film
Mm,
is very much
yeah,
because I didn't like I that's the thing is like if I said to you right now without watching it ever again is that thematically it's very obvious what it says and it sticks
yeah,
to it and it's so blatantly obvious, but because it sticks by that and also just I think I was just thinking then it could like if I compared that to Beau is Afraid where
yeah,
thematically it's saying a lot, like a
yeah.
lot of random, but the craziness around it you get lost in a bad way because
Hmm.
thematically it's not as obvious to what it's alluding to, and then as well as the substance before it goes down that batshit crazy insane cliff, which is hilarious,
Yeah,
and I loved it, but you're also still reeled in because you're still fully aware of what the film is trying to say.
yeah,
So I don't think it feels jarring as much as Beau is Afraid when it goes off
yeah,
that cliff, if that makes
yeah, for
sense.
sure. Oh yeah, definitely. And I think the amount at which it is in that crazy territory, I think seeing it in a packed cinema and
And
reacting to it with everyone else elevates that film so much, and it made it such a fun experience. But that's what I mean by, like, if I stuck it on now and I just sat down and watched it, I think I'd be like, it's still good, but I think so much of that cinema experience of a film like that
yeah,
adds quite a lot, because yeah, I think it's saying exactly what it's saying, and there's not much more to it than that. But visually and stylistically, it's yeah, it's very entertaining.
what was the that was oh yeah, what we had Long Legs,
Yeah,
that was okay.
long list was fine. Yeah,
Did you see Long Legs Rid? No. Yeah. Civil
so
War. Yeah.
didn't like Civil War at all.
Yeah. The thing
Uh,
is like, obviously I'm a huge Alex Garland fan, and
mm,
I think the film is entertaining, but there's nothing else. Like,
yeah,
there is absolutely zero in that film other than this is
yeah,
fun and entertaining. Like,
yeah.
which is insane to me considering obviously he's a writer and director who like puts his themes to the forefront and
Mm,
has something to say so very clearly that that film has literally nothing. Like,
yeah.
I
I
haven't
mean,
seen Civil War. I was looking forward to it because, like, I was about to say, I mean, I too am an Alex Garland fan, but actually, when you look at his filmography now, like half of his films I don't even like.
yeah.
So it's growing to a point where it's just like, okay, maybe I don't like his films, but like, yeah, I was looking forward to it, especially when you consider the cast as well. Like,
Mm,
I was really looking forward to it that way. But one of the quotes I think he said was like, of course, like everybody's finding the I think like something like California and Texas like ally or some shit,
mm,
and everybody's like, oh, that would never happen, bollocks, blah 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 blah, and then feels like he needs to come out and make a statement, and he said, well, I felt that something impossible teaming up, it must be really important, and it's just like that is so obvious for what you wanted to do. It's not this grand revelation that you need to reveal in an interview.
mm.
And if that's the most intricate points of the film you're making, you're not really saying anything at all. He feels in the same mold as like Don't Look Up from a couple of years ago.
Mm.
Don't Look Up wasn't saying anything at all,
No, that was pretty
and
garbage.
yeah, yeah, and it's just it feels like there's a lot of like not a lot of sorry, it feels like there's a presence of political films
Mm.
consistently being made that are actually about nothing at all because the
Yeah.
makers are too afraid to say anything.
Well, yeah, that's one thing I wanted to say was, like, with Civil War, it's subject matter, and it's like everything about that film would have you believe it's a political film, and that Alex Garland is is making a political statement, but the film itself is unbelievably centrist. That is, it's literally just about nothing. It's just about war photographers, and that is all it's about. and there's not even much of a meditation on that. It's literally
I don't know if Civil War has the theme or whatever, but I hate films that one of their core messages is like, why can't we all just get along?
yeah.
Because that is just such
Let's be
a
friends.
nothing, uneducated, like waste of time statement. Is why can't we all just get along? That is from such a privileged background. Anybody would ever say that.
Yeah.
Which is why in stuff like The Simpsons, it's constantly said because it's such a funny thing to say.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Is like, even if the film would have been completely against like my own political agenda, I would have liked it way more for if it actually took a statement and wanted to actually say something rather than just, oh, it says nothing. It's a little thing on journalism and the way. That's it. It's just nothing.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's more of a it's more of a statement on journalism itself than it is like politics or war or anything like that. All the things that the film should be glaringly about, it's just not about those things. It's just about aren't journalists like banking off bad things. It's like, yeah, thanks. And like, that's what the film is.
I know that we wanted to veer away from the disappointment sort of topics, but we've actually sort of like gone back into it, and I think that's actually just an indictment on this year as a whole for film.
Yeah.
Because it was something I was mentioning before. It's like I'm getting tired of actually disappointments in cinema. I can absolutely deal with disappointments if it's like Star Wars and Marvel, because they don't matter in the slightest. But if it comes to stuff like I don't know, a Civil War or a Long Wet Legs or Beau is a whatever, when we're actually getting films by like established directors who we are looking forward to seeing their films and we're interested in their filmography. For example, if Nosferatu is fucking shit when it comes out, I quit film. I do not get somebody else to write your fucking second draft, because if that's shit, it would finish me off.
Well,
but no, like it's just like I'm really looking forward to like stuff like Nosferatu, but unfortunately, it is directors like a Robert Eggers, who is like not exactly like, of course, but in that different sort of vein where they're trying to do different things and trying to say different things, that actually they get sort of. I don't think you change anything by being part of the same mold as everybody else. I think you have to do something different from the outside to change things within. And I think that's what people like Robert Eggers do. Does anybody want to transfer into Nosferatu? When was the last time both of you watched Nosferatu? Because for me, it was like this year, actually, I think I rewatched it.
I'm going to rewatch it before. I'm going to rewatch all of them. So
I think Nosferatu is like one of the greatest films ever made.
Yeah,
ever. I think it's incredible. In fact, I love it so much, I have both the Eureka version and the BFI version. That's right, I'm sad as fuck. But yeah, I think I'm looking forward to seeing what Eggers can cook.
There's no way he doesn't cook. I refuse.
It'll be a banger.
That's what I mean. It's like I am done with film forever. Film is cancelled forever.
The thing
if
is,
it comes out, it's shit.
I think the film's not gonna do very well, and I think
no.
The Northman and then this is gonna put Eggers in director's jail, but it will be worth it.
Director's jail. I like that phrase.
Well, I know the Northman did make money back though, didn't it, through Blu-ray releases and.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, and ancillary revenue, yeah.
So perhaps maybe but I feel like the Northman fits that kind of bracket, doesn't it? Because it'd be like, your dad goes in on a Sunday to Tesco, sees a load of Viking men, like we're like, ooh, I'll pick that one up. Not knowing that this is actually cinema. More than likely they're trying to be schlock, but like, I feel like Nosferatu isn't gonna bring that.
No, I don't think it's going to do very well at all.
I like the part where he went ho ho ho.
It's such a niche, like, well, not niche, but like such a very specific target audience that's actually going to go and see and actually excited for Nosferatu. People might see it if it gets word of mouth as a horror, but there are only certain people that are going on name alone, and it's not enough to really make that.
I think obviously I think it'll have the film audience and it'll have Eggers fans, but those as niche audiences, I think where it's going to actually get its largest demographic is what you just said there. If it gets out as like a horror sort of thing, I think Nosferatu is. I think it's just about a big enough name to bring in quite a large horror audience.
Yeah.
But because it's Eggers, it's going to feel very alienated. So I will be very surprised if it comes out and audiences love it.
Yeah.
I'll be surprised. Because I think I actually think it'll do very well with critics, as you'd expect. I think it'll do very well with film fans, as you'd expect. But it's not going to go down with the Alien Romulus crowd. Let's put it that way. It's not going to go down well with that crowd, which unfortunately is a massive crowd. And like you said, I like the phrase. It's going to put Eggers in director's jail. Yeah, and I actually think the only reason he managed to get Nosferatu was based on previous work. But it's if your film stops sort of making money and are not greatly received or whatever, you get to the sort of Alex Garland point.
Yeah.
Where it's just like half your filmography you're not even interested in.
Yeah, the Alex Garland fall off is
it's unreal.
Yeah, and the guy's quit.
Yeah, and it's 2 in a row now.
Yeah,
2 in a row now, and now he's quit directing. It's just like,
well, yeah, what a way to go out.
I didn't even know that happened. Why did he make a statement of why he quit?
No, it was like a week after Civil War came out. It was just like, I'm done now. I'm not gonna make any more.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. Cause
was it after release? Like reception? Sorry.
I don't know. The thing is, Civil War didn't get
burned out as well. Like I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he's just like wants to write again only, and just leave everything else to others.
Yeah.
I could use a second writer if he's free.
Because weirdly, it's not going to be his last film, is it? Because there is another film that he's like co-directing, and that's his last, I think.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But then that also makes me think if he's co-directing, how much of the directing is actually involved with him.
Yeah.
But it's just such a fall off, like Dread, Ex Machina, Annihilation.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen Devs, but like I know Eddie's seen Devs.
Yeah, I've seen Devs.
Like, that to me, like I haven't rewatched it, but that just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing for me. Like I think it's incredible.
Yeah, I remember watching it during lockdown, and I remember loving it for the first few episodes, and then the longer it went on, I think it lost me a bit, but I've never rewatched it or never revisited it. But I think its ideas are some of his most interesting stuff. It feels like kind of obviously the similar stuff that Ex Machina and Annihilation explore, but obviously with the added runtime, it really goes into them in an interesting way. And there's a really great Nick Offerman performance in that show as well, I remember.
There was others I liked. I could just name a few. We don't have to go into them if you haven't seen. Rebel Ridge.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen any Jeremy Saulnier films before.
Oh, Green Room,
yeah. Blue Ruin, you know what you're gonna get.
Right, yeah.
What have we got? Kinds of Kindness.
I didn't see.
It's like
I did see that.
Yeah. What did you think about that actually? Because I think the first part is an incredible short film that maybe could have been made into a full like hour 30 film, and the other 2 parts are just pants.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that I think me and Olivia felt the same thing, is that like when you make something like this, the intended effect, of course, I feel like would be like the messaging and stuff. It goes downhill the longer it goes on. Really, it's a case of like it's really interesting, and then it becomes, this feels like it's about nothing when it's constantly going downhill. I think it's really unfortunate when something like that happens, when it's a director that like I can really get on board with, especially with like the filmography that I'm always terrified of saying his name, but because I cannot pronounce it for shit. But like Yorgos. Boom. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's. I think it felt like more like a shame than anything, because it's something, an anthology film is something I can absolutely get behind. But I felt like by the end of that it fell flat.
Yeah.
And like there was a part that has stuck out with me, just because it's funny and not because of the messaging of the film. It's like the part that stuck out to me is when they're huddled in the living room watching the fucking sex tape. Yeah. That's hilarious. That's brilliant stuff.
Hilarious, yeah.
That's absolutely hilarious. But in a film that's trying to have really, really strong messaging, why is that the thing I remember? Do you know what I mean? It just kind of falls flat by the end.
It was funny I found about that because it was like the idea presented in my head and I was like, surely not. And then it just happened and it, obviously the reveal was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it's so funny the way he's done it.
The Apprentice.
I
go on if you.
I haven't seen that.
No, I didn't see The Apprentice. I've heard like it's one where you're either very mixed on it or like I've seen a lot of people love it and think it's great.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
Like, his performance is very good. A different man.
Oh, I really wanted to see that, but I missed that.
His performance in that is great. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I'd seen that.
I also did see. I seen A Violent Nature, which
I don't watch that.
it was a slasher film that was supposedly told from the POV of the killer.
Right.
It's shite. But the idea is incredible and it could be taken to something very interesting.
Right.
But I think it just defeats the point. So for example, it's meant to be shot from the POV of the killer. So there's a lot of him just walking. Now the problem is it takes away from its actual idea. So they're doing cuts within cuts to speed up the time. Well, it's like that just defeats the purpose. Like I want him to literally be sat there. All right, general audiences are not gonna like a killer just walking around for 5 minutes with nothing happening. But like, if you want to stick to that, then stick to it and do that. And it's like there's like for the majority of it, you are following this killer, and then there's like a 10 to 15 minute sequence at the end where it just abandons the premise and just goes to a simple like normal slasher with the female and someone else in a car, and it's like,
If that happens, that sounds like it stinks of like big changes.
Yeah.
Especially when it's so jarring and it's towards the end. That sounds like something that's been rushed and completely changed.
Yeah.
Like the idea and the premise itself, and there's moments in there you're like, you know, someone could really like put out a banger here for sure with this premise, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
You feel like it was because it wasn't made by a very experienced team, was it? Like it wasn't it like
it's very low budget, I think.
Yeah, I think I don't know, but like, do you feel like maybe that's a case of like they have a total idea that they wanted to stick with, and then it comes to the editing, or the filmmaking, or the writing, or something, and there's maybe changes suggested to make it more friendly to audiences, or this stuff like that, and they've just caved and gone, yeah, okay, fine, whatever.
It felt like that to me, whether either they were misguided in what they believed to be the POV of the killer and the actual concept that they were building, or it was they felt that, right, we're fearing that this is not going to do well with general audiences when we've got a guy just slowly walking through the woods on his own. Which
that was basically me when you said turn Mamet's Wood into a feature, and I was just like, audiences are not going to want to see an hour and a half of bloodshed. I was like, we need something here. We need some cook something.
But the concept, I feel like someone may in the next few years take that and make an absolute like innovative like slasher for sure. But
well, that's the thing is like I've noticed with like concepts, most of the time when a new concept hits cinema or film in general, whatever you like, the first iteration usually sucks. But it's the concept that is very successful that better filmmakers, more established filmmakers, who you like, takes advantage of and makes into better films. Not a lot of film people would like me for saying this, but I would genuinely use John Cassavetes as an example. I'm not a massive lover of Cassavetes' films, but I think his concepts, his ideas, and his originality lives in cinema to this day. And that's not necessarily because of everything he did, but it's certainly because of the concepts he brought to the table, as just like an example, because my mind is going back to Shadows, which I think is kind of an arse film. But the stuff that it's doing is fucking different, and it allowed people like Scorsese to actually utilize those very interesting and different methods that people hadn't seen before. So hopefully this can be one of those cases, again, maybe I'm being an optimist here, but I like to see concepts in shit films that are actually good concepts, because then it's like, okay, well, there's a lot here to be improved upon. Because there's something I hate is when good concepts and good films are remade for money. I like when good concepts in bad films are remade or reissued or reused, because then there's something. It's almost like you're taking like a diamond that hasn't fully realized, emerged, and you're finally birthing it.